Welcome to the Sky Talk Doc podcast, where we navigate life, relationships, and everything in between with thought-provoking curiosity and a touch of grace. Buckle up, Buttercup. This is a flight you won't forget.
Joe, welcome back to the podcast. I did not think we were going to be together this soon again, but I am so overjoyed because we had a little something that came up that we were kind of talking about offline. And it was like, we need to hop on the podcast and just kind of like have this conversation in the way that we can share it with the world.
Yeah, super stoked. And I did know we were going to reconnect this quick, Dr. Johnson. I just knew it. So yeah, our last episode was awesome. And when you asked me to do another one, I was like, yes. But then when you sent me that video, I was like, we need to do it quick. So it really is a pleasure to be back with you and share your audience. I appreciate you.
Exciting. And of course, you wrote the testimonial for the new book that's coming out. So this is so exciting. And this is a good time to tell everybody to go get your book, Unarmed. And what we're going to talk about today is very much in this wheelhouse. So anyway, I would like to try to not buffoon this and share my screen. And we'll just play a clip of the video because I feel like this is probably the best way to do this. And we'll watch it and then we can talk about it. Does that sound good?
It's great. Let's do it.
Got two different angles. I'm going to show the one that I think is the most pertinent to like what we're kind of doing. And so just let me know if you can see my screen when I hit the go button.
Sounds good.
All right, so here we go. I'm going to share my screen. I'm sharing the entire screen, so the whole world, I guess, is just gonna see what's going on here. All right, can you see my screen?
Got it. Yes.
All right, so let me put this small so that you can see my screen and just the whole video now, right? Okay, so let's press play and watch what unfolds here. Ooh, I gotta say, I've watched this thing like, I don't know, probably 10 times. And yeah, I still have an emotional response to it. Like I actually still feel coming up in my gut and like a whole lot of thoughts as a psychologist and somebody who worked in 5150, crisis intervention, all sorts of things in terms of maybe what happened on the administrator's side, what happened with the kid. My entire book, Primal Wounds, is written about activations and how these things happen and how to de-escalate these activated moments. Your whole book is about how someone as a first responder can deal with crisis situations in a way that's different and productive. So I'd probably like to let you just kind of take the floor and then we'll go from there.
Yeah. So I'll be honest, it was hard to watch for me as well. And I've seen it several times since. It's funny when you text it to me, I started getting it in my DMs. I started getting people send it to me. And so that's when I was like, okay, this is obviously going viral very quick. I'll be honest with you, Michaela, the thing that shocked me the most was the amount, and I have read probably over 500 comments through different platforms, YouTube, X, Facebook, Instagram, and even the news media. And I would say 99% of the comments are all celebratory. Yes, this is exactly what needs to happen. Good job on the cop. Good job, everyone. This is great. And I'll be honest with you, and I know depending on your audience and any first responders are not going to love this likely, but I 100% think the cops' force was excessive. There's a lot of factors that go into play. Also, I just want to be fully candid here. I don't love giving full opinion on stuff when we don't have all the facts, because did that officer witness the child assault I think the principal? Was he just called in and he didn't have the information? All he saw was the shove. So there's all these things, because again, I already saw too that the police chief for that officer's agency came out supporting him, saying he did everything right, he did nothing wrong. And I'm like, what message is that sending? Because the first thing, and I'm not deflecting, I'm happy to go wherever we want to go with this, but to just bring a question back to you is, in my mind, I can't help but think like, okay, cool, let's just play this video exactly as it is, but take out that child and say it's a 25-year-old female. Are we still celebrating? What if it was a 25-year-old male? Are we still celebrating? What if it was a black male? Are we still celebrating? And so at what point in society did we get to this place where it's like we get to decide when violence is justified and not? And that's the part that's like really bothering me is, and when we teach our training and I tell people, not as a religious statement, but it's like human behavior is we believe we have this God complex that we think we get to decide what is good, bad, right, wrong. And it's like, no, that's what the laws are for. And I get it. The criminal justice system is flawed for sure. There's all kinds of issues in every one of our systems. We have systemic issues. But if if you're okay with a full-grown man cop suplexing this kid that looks like he was maybe 120, because all he really had to do was go and just snatch him up, put hands on him, grab his wrist or his arms, and just say, you're done. Like, that's it. Snatch him up, put handcuffs on him, and it's over. But to suplex him, like, we know that people that get into just street fights, kids, they don't have a fully developed prefrontal cortex. What happens? They get into a fight, they knock someone out, they hit their head, they're dead. Now all of a sudden they're facing a criminal charge, looking at a life in prison served as an adult because they made a mistake. But when the cop does this, it's like, let's celebrate it. That's use of force. That's beautiful. And the things I'm seeing, it's just like, man, it makes it so hard to like love and celebrate society when it's like, oh, here's another kid without a father. How do you know that? How do you know anything that's happening in this kid's home? And anytime when I was an officer, and I'll yield and send it back to you here, but every single time that I would get called to a school for a child that was acting out, getting into fights, being belligerent, talking back, whatever it was, and the school's response was like, look, this kid's a troubled person. They're disrespectful. They're talking back. Just take him to the hospital or take him to juvenile. Just get him medicated or get him out of here. And every time the mantra is focus on the person, not the problem. So it's like, to me, all behavior is communication. And what that kid, and you saw it 4 times, he was like, don't touch me. Like, don't touch me. Nothing in that child's autonomic nervous system was regulated. He's fully in the fight or flight. He's not seeing this guy as authority. He just is flooded. And so he's like making it clear, don't touch me. Don't touch me. Don't touch me. For all we know, this kid could be getting physically abused at home, and you putting hands on him is now charging him more. It doesn't justify. I'm not saying he has the right to slap or put his hands on the principal, but we also have to like look at this through both sides and not just be like, oh, it was cool to watch this teenage boy get dropped on his head. That's funny. And it's like, what have we become that, one, we're not wise enough to think like, well, would I really feel the same way if it was an adult? Probably not. I'd be all up in arms. Like, there's just so many things that are unanswered for me and also like disturbing and problematic. And so, yes, I would love your take on the psychological side of this as well, and how you can tie this to your incredible book that I'm excited about too, not as a plug, but truly just as like, this is why you do the work you do. This is why we provide the training we provide. And I don't want to criticize anything, but just say like, can we learn from this and say, how can we get better? And I don't love that the chief came out, and I get it. That's a tough position, but to just come out and be like, he did everything great. Like, well, be very careful about the message you're sending to the rest of your department saying we can just go around suplexing kids if they put hands on an adult. Like, that suddenly is like, now I can drop you on your head. Be very careful, because again, you know that that's going to come back and haunt you one day. If the age, the gender, the race doesn't line up with the narrative, you're going to have very different stories. I got a lot of problems with it.
And Joe, this is why this is why you were the first person I called, because I was like,
thank you.
I absolutely know the work that you're doing, and I knew that you were going to see this from a different lens. And this is why you're stellar in your field. And this is why so many of the police departments and first responder departments across the nation are calling you to speak and teach them something different. So I love everything you said. I completely align with so much of it. And I'll share a little bit of backstory. So I got this video within probably 5 minutes of it happening. Our teenage boy actually used to go to that high school. We moved him from that high school because of some stuff that we actually had witnessed playing out last year. And it was very affirming that we made a good decision to move him out of that high school, even though it did take some hoop jumping and different things to make that happen. He sent it moments after it happened. He was shaken up. We have like a family group thread going on throughout the day, that they can say my math is sucking, whatever. We offer encouragement. He has backstory on this child. He has backstory on this kid's family system and this kid being suspended multiple times last year, all the things. So we have a little bit more of an intimate insight to it. But I will say my very first thought was exactly what your thought was. So first of all, everything that I had been taught in how to deal with crisis situations as a first responder who was dealing with people that were holding guns to their head, dealing with people who had been picked up by the police that were having a psychotic break, is never, under any circumstances, do you approach somebody that is in fight or flight. So the very first thing that I witnessed was, wow, the school district did everything wrong to deal with a student that is clearly in fight or flight, clearly operating from the amygdala. Nothing rational is coming out of his behavior whatsoever, and no amount of talking, pushing, shoving, or pointing or whatever is happening is going to change that. This is not how we de-escalate an activated person.
Yep.
And I watch this happen on very different scales in my couples sessions every day, right? They activate each other and then instantly they are not out for the team. They are out for themselves. It's human survival. It's the reason. And it's magnificent. Truly it is. And this is what I try to teach people is that once you know how your human emotional survival brain works, you can actually have a different experience. You really can. And that's what the school should be teaching. And this is not to fault the administrator because I could tell, and I've heard great things about this principal, by the way, but I could tell that he too was activated, right? He's got adrenaline pumping through his body right now. He is high on all of that stuff. So he's not necessarily taking the self-aware adult pause. I'm sorry, I'm not sure why the dog is going absolutely crazy right now. It's ironic. He never gets that upset. So somebody's out the door that he does not like. He's the friendliest lover ever. But so the principal was activated too. So there was no intervention there by anybody who was in a calm, self-aware adult position whatsoever. So it was a perfect prime situation for escalating. But what really got me at the end there, and by the way, witnessing, so I've done a lot of nonverbal cue training. And it doesn't matter that what the principal was trying to say was, come here, let's go outside and talk. I know how that kid read that nonverbal cue. Bring it on, bitch. Bring it on, right? This is what the kid is
he's
here.
smiling. He's smiling.
Bring it on. Bring it on, right? Like, this is probably the environment that this kid has grown up in. And again, I'm not going to pass any judgment on that without having interviewed his family or anything like that. But the point is, that nonverbal cue is inviting more escalation, not de-escalating. So there's this series of events, and then we have a cop come in, probably 280, body slam, $120 at the most, right? Like, I mean, could we have any more dramatic, like movie episodic ending to this than that?
Right.
Like, does the cop not have a taser? I'm sure he's got a taser. Does the cop not have some sort of non-threatening way to de-escalate this before putting hands on the kid? Come on, give me a break. You cannot celebrate that when there were many other things that were available. Now, perhaps this kid has a history of escalating in ways that become violent, but we have to look at everything on a case-by-case scenario because, like you said, unless that situation is escalated to that point, you're the one who's on the line for your actions at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think something we often talk about and teach is how important environment is. And I promise you, if it was the principal and whoever the adult teacher was, and then I saw a female as well, but if you have 3 adults and that one kid and he's by himself in a room, he's going to respond and react very differently. But now you've got, I don't know, 50, 100 kids sitting in these bleachers watching. So now this kid's going to show out. Everyone's like watching to egg this on. The principal's like, you're not about to have a gotcha on me. The officer got totally sucked into that moment because, again, without knowing, but what it seems like is, and I think I read one of the articles that said somebody called for the officer. So he comes in because I don't think that the stuff on the bleachers would have lasted as long if he was in the gymnasium. So he comes in and he probably just saw the kid push. Now, because to our point we've made, this kid is obviously very lean, maybe even malnourished. He's very small. His push was not anything violent. He wanted it to be, but he could barely move that principal, who's also not a very big guy, but his push was very weak. And so it's like, yeah, if I'm that officer, one, just from a testosterone level, but just from an adult to a child level, there's no need to even a taser. Like, I get that the use of force continuum says that we can go one level higher than them. Cool. But the fact is that you still have to use reasonableness. And like, all he had to do was just go put hands on him, just squeeze his arms, and that's it. That kid is not pulling away from that cop. There's no world. Now, if he tries to flail and he messes around or he pulls a hand and then he hits the cop, okay, then you do a leg sweep and you take him down. But you're still not going to suplex him over your head. Like, that is some next level. And in fact, I would be really surprised if there's any law enforcement training in this country that teaches the suplex. They teach a lot of, I've been through a lot of police use of force training. Nowhere on there is it pick someone up over your shoulder and drop them on the back of their neck or head. You're asking for a serious, serious problem there. And I don't know what the aftermath is, what the outcomes are. I have no idea what the condition of this kid is, but
seizure. I don't know. A lot of the internet knows this. So he actually had a seizure immediately following the body slam.
Okay. So yeah, that's serious bodily harm on a kid that slapped. Yes, there needs to be consequence. And again, I don't want anyone to hear this as like, you're just advocating for the kid only, there should be no consequence. I didn't say that. There should be consequence. Like the kid needs to be expelled and needs some alternative school. And honestly, some of you might not like this either. He needs a whole lot of love. Like that is the greatest thing lacking in his life is this kid has no love, because if he's resorting to this level of response, it tells you that nothing is being modeled for him any other way.
100%.
And yeah, so it's, yeah. Oh, Michaela, I love that you shared it. And then it's been so sad to me to like just watch what the internet has done with this. And again, as a cop that has just been in the field for so long, but also think of everything post George Floyd, it's like we really get activated and we're super anti-police action if it doesn't fit this certain thing. But then if it's a adult to a child, suddenly that's okay because that child slapped an adult. And so he needs to be taught a lesson. And it's like, you need to be very careful about what power you're giving cops arbitrarily based on your own beliefs.
You know, I got a lot of text messages about it, and the theme was the same as you have seen, which is that kid had it coming. That kid deserved it. You know, he was popping off. That's right. Put him in his place, that kind of a thing. And it's funny because our teen boys were clearly affected by this. Obviously, it's like the first week of school. And I said, you know, what I'm feeling more than anything is sadness that we're in the first couple of days of school and this kid's already on his way out, right? Number one. Number two, I said, I'm not advocating for his behavior, but I'm also saying a lot of people let this kid down. A lot of people have failed this kid. And if I were to have him take the primal wound quiz, I could guess what his primal wound is. And I guarantee that he's not had people that have done anything other than affirm that. And this event just affirmed it. It just sealed in that primal wound.
Yeah. And how deep his confirmation bias is now of like, I'm not worthy. I'm not lovable. Bad things happen to me. There's going to be no ability for him to recognize a consequence of a choice. It's just reaffirming a deeply rooted belief he has, which is something family, school, peers, people have told him, which is some level of negative thing. And he is now forcing that to become true. And it's just a form of sabotage. And again, for all your listeners, if we're really honest with ourselves, we've all done this at some point or another. I certainly have. And so, yeah, it's easy for me to empathize with situations like this because like this isn't too dissimilar from me. I didn't choose violence. I just chose I used humor, but as a way to get in trouble and insubordination and talk back to the teachers, but being funny, being the class clown to just get kicked out of class. That to me it's no different than being violent. Behavior is just the distraction. And so when we can get underneath the thing, it's like, what's driving that behavior? That's where the real help is. But as of right, because it's going to be a while before that kid's even receptive to help, because now he's just going to be raged in anger about what just happened to him in front of all his peers. Imagine what his phone looks like right now. Imagine when everyone's telling him dude, you got smoked, you got this, that,
I know what I deal with for sharing activations on the internet in terms of trolls. And I have literally the doctoral signature to handle it. And it's hard for me. I can only imagine what this kid is dealing with. And what's funny is as you're talking, the first time we were on the podcast together, I was like, oh, I know it's from a wound from your course of action in life. Right. And so what's sad about this path is it will become a self-fulfilling prophecy. It absolutely will become, you think I'm a bad guy, watch how bad I can be. Yep. And we'll enter into that system. And this is where I feel so passionate about the work that you're doing and the work that I'm doing, because these are scripts that have been programmed early on, and we don't have to stay in them. We can actually come out of that narrative and choose something different. And this is why I'm so passionate about what we're doing. What are your thoughts on the de-escalation technique? Because I have mine, how I would have approached that as a school. Let's say I was just happened to be at the school that day, giving a talk on primal wounds, and that exact situation played out. I know how I would have handled it. I'd love to share that, but I'd love to hear how you encourage teachers, administrators, first responders. Oh, and by the way, I really feel like a good lesson from this should be that administrators need better tools. Yes. They need better training on how to handle this. I know that's something that your company does, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on how you might have navigated that. Say you'd been there giving a talk that day.
Yeah. So you already touched on it with the first thing is space, right? And now again, without knowing, because the way the video starts, it's like you see the guy reach out and put his hand, it gets slapped away. So I want to know what's happening right before that. Now, the thing I read was that kid was trying to fight another kid. So if there's an actual assault happening and someone's being injured, then you have a duty to respond and you have to break that up. So that's first thing. But what the video shows is that you have a child and adult looking at each other talking.
Mhm.
So right away, the reason I would say, and again, I tell people volume doesn't equal violence and words don't get to wound you when you're on duty. So the fact that the principal is putting his hand up is the first thing that I would not do. In fact, what we teach is from a not primal wound, but from a primal, like animalistic side, is we just do a subtle hand up, not out, but hand up, half step back, create space, make yourself a little smaller so that the animal side knows like, oh, this person's not a threat. They're not bigger. They're not holding the line. They actually just made themselves a little smaller. So space is your first friend. Then it's all about delivery, tone, right? It's about, and this is actually the thing I'm doing right now, Michaela, it's called slow and low, but it's this idea of from an individual framework, we have to slow ourselves down. I don't care what's being said. Again, short of there being some violence, but you have to regulate yourself. So just take a breath, slow yourself down. I tell people, do not get sucked into anyone else's crisis. Don't do it. There's no excuse. No excuse unless they're physically injuring you. And people are going to say, well, he did. He did after he got his hands put on him 4 times. And I get it. He's a kid. He's supposed to listen. But if I reach out to touch you and you say, don't touch me, I know right away, well, that's an activation for him. I'm going to actually back up now, not because the kid's in charge, but because I'm going to take charge of that kid and I'm going to leverage my intellect and do things that he doesn't know I'm doing. So if I go to grab someone and they panic or react or overreact, I know that that's a thing for them. So I'm going to do that at last resort. So space first, tone and delivery second. And then I'm actually going to use the skills. Obviously, he probably knows his name. I don't know his name. We'll call him Andy. Hey, Andy, you seem really agitated right now. And then I'm going to pause. So I'm going to use an emotional label because I'm going to name what he's feeling. And then I'm going to pause. And he's going to pop out, yeah, F this, F fuck that, you bit, all the because he's showing out. He's fully flooded. And I'm just going to say, I feel confused when you're talking to me that way because I'm just here to help you out. And I'm going to convey consequence. Listen, Andy, you know, if you try to fight another student, we have a zero tolerance of that. We're not going to allow that to happen. So if I need to clear the auditorium and get everyone out of here, I will. Otherwise, I'm asking you to come with me. I ain't going anywhere with you. No, Andy, you are, but you're going to choose how we're going to go. All right. And I don't want to escalate this. I'm not going to make any threats to you, but you know exactly what's going to happen if we don't do X, Y, Z. And then guided imagery is exactly what's going to happen. We're going to walk out of here. We're going to go out those double doors right there. We're going to walk down to the office. We're going to take some breaths. I'm going to get you some water and we're going to talk through what's happened. I want to know your side of the story because that's important to me. We're going to try to validate because this kid's obviously trying to fight for something, what was said to him, what was done to him. So, hey, I want to know your side of the story, right? I'm not here to attack you. I'm on your side. Come talk to me, but let's do it away from everyone else. There's all kinds of ways that we can try to at least make an effort. Like according to just that video, there was no effort made of just communication. It was immediately close ground within arm's reach and then try to grab. And on the 4th grab, you got slapped. And then you're like, okay, now I'm going to pull you out. And you could see the other guy that was trying to grab, that kid had no problem with that other guy. Like he wasn't trying to attack him. He was just trying to keep his pants up at that point, get his backpack off. But, and also here's the part that I love that people don't understand from like the behavioral science side of this is what ultimately ended up happening is the teacher or the principal, as he's after he got assaulted, but like he starts leaving. Yes, he's facing him. He's doing this number, but as he's walking out, the kid's following him. So you're getting the desired outcome. You're getting what you want. And then here comes the officer to be like, not good enough. I don't like this. Let me put a little exclamation point on this. So that's how I would have handled it in that moment. Create space, use an emotional label, the actual active listening skills, very low tone, tell them exactly what I believe to be happening, reaffirm, validate, use empathy, say, hey man, come on, we're not going to do this here in front of everyone. Almost whisper. We're not going to give these people what they want to see. You know, these guys are wanting to see a show. Come on, let's get out of here. We're going to go down to the office. I want to hear your side of it. I want to better understand what's going on and what we can do to help you. We've got to, and that's not lying. I'm not lying to him. That's exactly what I want to do. And there's still maybe a consequence, but we're not going to do this in front of everyone else and give them a show and do exactly what happened. And then again, this officer just showing up and losing his damn mind is a whole. And then from the officer's standpoint, again, even if I witness a shove from a child to an adult, if I see the shove, I'm going to use voice first because you got to announce yourself. Be like, hey, Andy, no, sir. Get his attention, see how he's going to react to that. And then again, I'm just going to put hands on his wrists. That's it. That kid ain't going nowhere. Just snatch him up. Be like, no, man, you're done. I just saw you assault the teacher. You're under arrest for assault and then hook him up. It's over. You bounce him on his head and cause a seizure. Yeah. I truly wonder, other than the cop reading all of the comments across all the platforms and maybe being like, yeah, feeling myself, I did a good thing today. Like, are you really proud? Like, are you really truly proud of your actions right there? And I just want to share this, Michaela, because I think it's relevant, is we did it. I don't want to name him because it doesn't matter, but we were doing a training for an all boys alternative state school where these kids facing felonies, they're kicked out of school. It's the last chance. It's very problematic behavior. And they're in this school and they're confined there. And we were doing training for the staff, and the staff, some of them are security and whatnot, but they were giving us a tour. And Jesse and I were just absolutely appalled at like the level of pride that some of these very grown men had when they were talking about how they would have to like slam these kids or smash these kids, or, I'll drop these kids. And I'm like, are you trying to impress me right now? Cause I'm disgusted. Like the fact that you like that makes you feel good. Like how insecure of a man are you that you're getting off on the fact that like, yeah, I body slammed a 13-year-old today. Like, okay, something's really wrong in your life as well, that you think that that's something that you should be bragging about. And it was just like, oh, we're here for the right reasons, because boy, are these people in trouble. And so, yeah, I just wanted to add that context. But now I would also want to know from you is what would your style be of de-escalation, knowing those primal wounds, and what your version would be?
Well, I feel like as you were talking, I'm like, and this is why you're the GOAT. You're a total pro. That's the thing. I mean, truly, like literally everything. And I know we talked about it before, and all the context that's in your book in terms of like the way you're approaching and looking at things is spot on. The P in my system, primal, right, is pause. And that's exactly what you're saying. It's the slow and low, because without separating the amygdala from the prefrontal cortex in that but moment, there's never going to be a de-escalation. If we don't know how to take that pause, then we're never going to be able to get a self-aware adult on board. We're never going to be able to be out for the team. We're never going to be able to be rational. We're in a survival mindset. That's all there is to it. And so I completely agree with you. I think one of the big things that I teach is what you're talking about, the whisper. Right? It's like, hey, I can see that you're really activated right now, and I want this to end differently, and I'm sure you do too. And I'm not going to raise my voice about it. I'm going to say it exactly like that, right? Like we can play this out however we need to play it out, but I think there's a better way than the way it's playing out right now. And I love that. And this kid has this narrative, I guarantee it 100%, that I'm a bad kid. I was also curious what happened prior, right? Like what was, and this is the piece of the video that we don't see. Was there some sort of shoving in the bleachers? What was going on between him and the other kid? Is it a football jock that poked at him for not having a daddy at home? Or, what was the activation that caused this kid to get into a mindset where he was fearing for his life? Yep. Regardless, his stature, his approach, his nonverbal cues, they were all very non-reactive. I mean, I was actually really impressed with his composure, considering probably the upbringing that he's had. My hot take on it from a psychology standpoint is that this kid is the de-escalator in his family. That was actually my take. He is probably the one that stands in between his younger sibling and someone else. And I don't know, again, his mom could be watching this going, you got this all wrong. He's a total problem child. Take him off. Do it. But you know what I mean? Like just looking at it psychologically and seeing for 15 years now, patterns of human behavior in all sorts of settings, including the psychiatric health facilities. My guess is that he's actually a de-escalator, and he has the potential to go on to do great things in his life if that empathy that I witnessed play out in him is harnessed. I think at one point he even said something like, please don't touch me. And it's like, whoa, this kid's giving you every clue that you need to choose something different for the entire school. But the amplification of the audience, the energy of the crowd mob stuff definitely plays into it. And what I saw was that principal jumped into a different part of self as well. So in my book, we have 3 different parts of selves. We have the child, we have the teen, and we have the parent responder, and then we have our self-aware adult. And, the child is very teary, can throw a temper tantrum. The teenager is the justice warrior. They're going to throw, kick, scream, fight, slam doors, walk out, roll their eyes. And the parent responder is judgmental, critical, condescending, ruminating, all those things. And we will bounce between different parts of selves. And by the way, this is Eric Berne's work in transactional analysis, that when faced with any kind of threat, emotional, real, perceived, doesn't matter, we will go to a part of self for our survival. And what I see a lot is people are often stuck, when you see people that have like anger management issues, they're just stuck in a teen responder. And my work with them is actually teaching them how to stop guarding their child is what it really comes down to. So it's kind of like an interesting, fascinating twist. But when you said, he's a kid, what if he was an adult? And I'm thinking, but what defines a kid when it comes to human survival? Because a 4-year-old, a 2-year-old that doesn't get their way in the grocery store when they want a candy bar is going to react even more intensely than that. Right. And so I don't know what happened with the glasses, but something shifted. Again, nonverbal cues, psychology assessment, patterns of human behavior. When the glasses came off the principal, it was no longer, in my opinion, about what was happening between him and the kid, but what was happening inside of him. So I don't know what the story with his eyesight and his glasses are, but there was definitely a psychological shift in that moment. And this is the stuff that I'm looking for between my couples, right? And when I'm working with them and they're sitting with me, I'm picking up on all these little things, and I'll say, we need to take a pause right now because I'm picking up on something that your partner just said or something that your partner just did. And then I'll say, tell me about that when you just rolled your eyes. Tell me about that. I'm watching for those patterns of human behavior that are so much more telling than the words that are coming out of your mouth. And they're like, you caught that? I'm like, this what you're paying me for.
Yeah.
You're paying me to catch that so we can have a different experience. And what often happens, and this is what's so fascinating between all relationships really, is we miss those nonverbal cues. We're so busy listening to respond that we're not listening to hear. And we have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. We should be using these more than this. We have 2 of these for a reason, so that we can be watching these nonverbal cues and picking up on things. And I think that if administrators and first responders had more training in nonverbal cues, had more training in the neuroscience of how we respond from a survival standpoint, everything would shift because we could see each other for what we are and what's actually happening underneath the escalation.
Yeah, this is just a slightly pivot on like a utopian hope. Is this is my issue with the public education system as a whole, is like it hasn't upgraded enough to catch up to where we are. Like, we know all this stuff. There are brilliant people like yourself. We understand more about the brain than we ever have in the history of the world. And yet we're still teaching school as if it was in the 60s. We're still cranking out kids and like everything's operationalized and systematized, and to create this, like they're going to work in the factory, and most of them are not. And it's like, why are we not learning this much earlier in life? That even what you pointed out with the toddler in the grocery store, if all people would understand that the only behaviors that you will ever do are those that are habituated towards reward. The reason we do the things we do is because we've been rewarded for it. Now, you might not agree with what it is. Like, some people tantrum, and they could be a 40-year-old man and they still punch holes in their sheetrock. Well, why do they do that? Because throughout their life, they've gotten the result that they've wanted from acting that way. If they didn't, they wouldn't do it. And this is all behavior. It's like, we only do the things that give us the reward, even if the reward is sabotage and it's negative and it doesn't actually serve me. It's still a reward because it's validating some type of belief I have. And so parents, when your kids are in the grocery store and they're like, can I get the candy bar? And you say no. And then they're like, okay. And they don't even know they're doing this, but they're like, let me go to the next card. The next card is beg. Please, mom, please, can I please get, I really want it. And you're like, no, I told you no, you're not getting it. They're like, all right, that didn't work. Well, let me throw a full on fit and lose my shit here. Okay. So now I'm in a tantrum. At any point that you give in, you've just reinforced that thing works. And so again, to the child that grows up in a home where chaos and abuse and violence, and they see mom and dad or partners screaming at each other, and then it resolves and I get dinner, the story then is like, oh, I guess we scream to get our point across. Like, that's a normal behavior. And the problem with society, in my opinion, one of many, is that because we grew up a certain way, we cast our lens and we project it onto everyone as like, this is the way you should be. Well, cool. We get that there's a spectrum. And the point I want to make is, before this call, I met with my functional medicine doc that, like, we just did this like full panel blood work, and she's going through my stuff line by line. And she's like, look, this is in range. If you went to a VA hospital, for example, or a regular hospital, they're going to say, your blood work looks good. It's in range. I can tell you I have a lot of problems with a lot of your things because yes, it's in range, but it's low. So you're in range, but you're not well. This isn't where I want you to be a functional 43-year-old man. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting, right? So it's like, that's the same thing with behavior, is like, we have the spectrum of what we deem acceptable, and anything that's outside of that, which means from our own experience or norm, is unacceptable. But that's changing for everybody. And so if we would realize that, like, even that kid, the way he's standing, the way the principal taking his glasses off is like, I think like a street fight and a girl taking out her hoop earrings. Like, we mean business now. It's all communicating something else. I'm getting ready for the next level of combat. I am now posturing. And it's like, they're so easy to see in hindsight exactly where we went wrong, where we could have stopped, where we could have slowed down, where we could have intervened. And yet to just watch it all unfold, it's like, man, yeah, super unfavorable. And I just wish that we would teach the basics of psychology, the basics of human behavior, understanding why we do the things we do all throughout school. Imagine what kind of adults we would have if that was, I mean, you might be out of a job, Michaela, but
Totally. I would
we'd have
embrace.
a healthy society. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's exactly what you said. I call it the golden retriever analogy. So if you have a golden retriever and you don't want the golden retriever to jump up on you, but the golden retriever jumps up on you and you shove the golden retriever off, the golden retriever got exactly what it wanted.
Yep.
It wanted your attention, it wanted your touch, it wanted your affection. You just rewarded it. And so now what is it going to do? It's going to keep jumping up on you every time you come home.
Yep.
You know, the reciprocal behavior has to be actually turning around. I'll tell you a story, and people can have whatever thought that they want about this, but my son is 14 and magnificent, so I'm standing by this. He did the temper tantrum in the grocery store one time. I looked at him, I said immediately no, turned around, and I walked away. That temper tantrum didn't last but a couple of seconds before he realized, oh, mom's serious, she's not coming back. And he was picked himself up off the floor and running to catch up. You know, of course, I wasn't going to leave the grocery store unless somebody kidnapped my kid or something like that. But I knew, working with adults that act like that any kind of engagement with that temper tantrum in the moment was going to do nothing but create years of temper tantrums for me. So I think it's really fascinating. And to your point about learning psychology, I mean, I think that if I really look at the school system, and I was going to use another term and I won't do that, but I actually have a neuroscientist who also specializes in like pediatric brain stuff that's coming on the podcast to talk about the robotic way that kids are being raised, the entire homework system, and the fact that even adults don't work beyond that 8-hour day unless they're paid overtime. You know, there's a lot, I think, that needs to be unpacked there still. But the biggest thing that shocked me out of all of this situation was this child, and he's a child, gave a lot of adults a lot of cues before it ever came to this point. And that's, I think, the sad part. I feel like we as a society are just doing a lot to encourage a continued pattern that is not headed toward a good direction. So that's what bums me out.
Yeah. And the thing I wish people would realize too is that while you're celebrating him getting body slammed, all you're doing is reinforcing his beliefs and patterns. Then when he grows up, if he's not in prison, which many people are upset about, there's too many people in prison. If God forbid you ever became a victim to this kid, it's like, hey, but remember when you thought it was cool when he was being disciplined and reinforced as a child that he's not worthy of anything better than being punished? All the comments that I'm reading about, like, he got exactly what he deserved. He got exactly what he deserved. And I'm like, okay, so that just tells me you believe in the whole eye for an eye thing. And it's like, be very careful when you live life that way. I just think it's so odd to me and really sad, like truly sad. And honestly, like, not to be grandiose here, but like why I think there's so much collective and individual suffering in the world is because of things like this. This is a microcosm of we are so quick to rally around hate or anything that divides us. So because I was truly shocked. Like, I really thought like, uh-oh, cop just did this thing. He's about to get slammed in the comments. I couldn't find it. I could not find it. And I was shocked at how little, I think I saw maybe 2 out of 500-ish comments that were like, well, that might have been a little excessive. And of course, the replies then were just hammering that person.
Right.
But it's like, I wonder if you'd feel the same if you saw a video of that happening to your child. And if you're like, well, yeah, if he slapped the principal, then I would expect that. Yikes. Thank God you ain't my daddy is what I would say.
That's right.
Like,
was my kid, because
right.
I would have everybody in the entire city lined up right now. Legit. And you know, I would slay them with my words in ways that they would crouch and put their tail between their legs and crawl home. But that's
the Sky Talk Doc podcast, and we do not endorse violence or inciting any riots and
using F-bombs while in a cockpit.
Right. That's our disclaimer.
Yeah. So no, I love the conversation. I'm glad we got time to do it. And I think I'm hopeful that we're going to put out something that's a different perspective than what everybody else is sharing in terms of this. I also wonder, you know, it seemed to me like the door was closing. Maybe the cop thought there was some privacy there. My take, I doubt he went home proud of his actions that night. I can't imagine.
I hope not.
I hope not.
even though the chief said what he said, even though the comments are praising him, I hope on some level he's got the humanity to realize, like, yikes, I kind of lost it there. I don't think he thought the doors. I mean, he just pushed through the door, grabbed the kid, and it was quick. So he just, I truly, in policing, it's called OODA loop, and it's actually like a fighter pilot's thing. But um, and I think his OODA loop was jacked. He got sucked into this moment. He wasn't thinking anything else other than, hell no, you will not put your hands on a teacher. And you made a great point too of, if this kid has a history of being suspended, if this is an SRO who maybe has been at that school for years, he's already coming in with bias of like, just give me a reason. Just give me a reason. Because it seems like that type of response is some pent up energy that he was just looking for the moment that he could take out his aggression on him. I just would be shocked if anything other than that. And it still doesn't justify it. But in my just experience of doing that job for a long time and training SROs as well, they know their kids where they're like, yeah, this is the one we got to watch out for. Like, oh, if that one ever gives me a reason. And it's like, hey, wow. Yeah.
You know, I was thinking as you were talking, there was an event last year at this same school that happened in the bathroom involving a teacher and a kid. And I wonder if there's connections there. I'm sure there's just a lot more to unpack. And certainly, I think both of us are trying to say, look, we're not judging anybody, because at the end of the day, I think at least where I stand is human behavior is human behavior, and everybody escalated. Everybody was in fight or flight. Everybody was functioning from the amygdala. Nobody was standing there having a rational calm, even if it seemed on the surface that it was, right? So I feel like not passing any judgment here, but just to say this could be a learning experience for everybody.
And that's my, it's so tricky for me of people listen to me talk and they're like, damn, dude, are you anti-police? And I'm like, no, I absolutely love this profession. I just think we have massive upside. And if we could improve the individual well-being, the individual skill set, the individual intellect of every first responder, we would get much more favorable responses. Like, I promise you, I'm on your side. I am pro police. I am pro first response, but I just want us to do better. And that's like why I can look at something like this and just debrief. Again, no judgment, but it's like genuinely from a curiosity standpoint of like, what happened? And also something that we don't think about too is like, what's going on in that officer's life?
Right.
That like he thought that like, okay, I work in a school. Immediately it's like, turn it down a few notches. But the FBI just released a stat already of like their predictive index of like what's about to happen on school violence this year. They're predicting is going to be higher than any years past. And it's the first week back. And it's like, so it's like, here we go, strap in. But at the same time, it doesn't give the cops the authority to just go around smashing skulls. Like, I really still believe wholeheartedly in the ability to have relationship style policing. Know your kids, your kids. And when they see you, they know, oh, that's actually someone that's got my best interest. But if I do the wrong thing or if I do this, then they're going to hold me accountable. Not they're going to cause me to have a seizure. Yeah. Like,
right.
And that comes through genuine connection. And that can happen regardless what's happening at that kid's home, which I think gives the school a lot of responsibility and the SRO to foster a connection with them. We know this through ACEs and everything else in trauma is it takes one adult, one interaction to change someone's life. But like, if you just see them as like, and you're giving them side eye and you're avoiding contact and you're not proactively engaging them, just saying, hey buddy, just wanted to say hi to you. No one's loving on that kid. So yeah, there's a lot that it's very nuanced and complex. And I truly just want better for the schools, for the officers. I really want us to step up collectively and do a better job.
And to speak to the violence increase or whatever that is predicted, you know, I could attest to this in terms of psychology and what I'm seeing in my practice as well, is that there is a baseline level of hopelessness happening on the planet right now. I mean, literally, I have a check that my clients, before they come into session, it's just a quick, like, how you doing today? Where's your life at? Whatever, across the board. Just baseline hopelessness is just shifted a lot. And so I think that trickles down into every other area of society, right? If you're already feeling like your hierarchy of needs is not being met, you're going to be more likely to respond from an elevated cortisol standpoint. So I think that we're seeing a lot of that playing out as well. I don't think it's man.
Yeah, it's, I mean, just 1.3 million crimes in public schools.
School or private school. There it is.
Yeah.
Oh.
Scary.
Yeah, and that's just the trickle down of what we're seeing kind of playing across everything. Truly, I really do think so. And that's devastating. It's devastating news.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I don't know if it's in California yet, but in Texas, they like created the law, no more cell phones. So they're actually locking them up. They're not allowed to have them. They're confiscating them. There's financial fees if you get caught with it. There's all kinds of stuff they're doing. And I am curious of what the fallout, there's always a pro and con to everything. And So now we're just not going to see as much. Obviously, in that school, they still have phones, but I think about my son's school, both of them, where they don't have phones anymore. So now it's like, we're not even going to get these videos. Now it's all going to happen without any real witnesses or video evidence. And now it's all the he said, she said stuff. And, but it doesn't mean it's going to stop the violence. It's
Right.
going to slow down distraction maybe, but yeah, that's a whole different topic for another day.
You know, and as you were talking, something I was kind of thinking about just as a plug to the concept is that Simon Sinek had done some work around the 8-minute pact. I don't know if you've heard about that, but it's pretty impressive. What it says is it takes 8 minutes to walk a person off of suicide. And I feel like this is an important thing to share right now where, you know, if you have someone in your life, make an 8-minute pact. And the 8-minute pact just says, I can text you anytime and say, I need 8 minutes, or you can text me anytime and say, do you need 8 minutes? Right. And you're going to take time out of your day to give someone 8 minutes because you might actually change their life. And I feel like these little things that can, you know, that we don't really necessarily think about until it's too late. If we have a proactive shift, a little bit intention and create that space now. And I actually have an 8-minute pact with a friend after watching Simon Sinek's video, and he utilized it yesterday morning at 8:30. He says, I need 8 minutes. I'm like, you got it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Love it.
You know, just with the way the world is going right now, I think having some of these simple things in place are so helpful. And my biggest takeaway from what you said is slow and low, which is my favorite way to fly, as you know. So it's like, just slow it down, low it down, back it up, take a second, take a pause, and see how your world shifts when you take one small action to engage differently.
Yeah. Yeah. It allows you to respond from a resourced state rather than a habitual reactive state. And again, and I love that you brought this up too. And it's, you know, if people, especially adults, and my therapist told me this years ago, she goes, because I have a lot of childhood trauma stuff, sexual abuse, physical abuse. And she said, Joe, you did everything that you're supposed to do as a child. You survived, like you physically survived. The problem is that the mechanisms you created to survive it no longer serve you as an adult. Cool. But even beyond that is, if we could just understand that when a child is born into their environment they're born into, immediately they start taking on the behaviors, the habits, the fears, the disappointments, all the things of their family, their aunts, their uncles, the cousins, the school, society, their zip code, the neighborhood. And then we become adults and we are operating from a representative self that has been morphed and created, molded by everyone else. And I really think we lack genuine understanding of self in the world, especially in our country and our society, because we don't do a lot of like the internal stuff and the breath work and the meditation and all of that self-love. And so we think we know who we are, and we really don't. And so for me, it's like, if we could just realize that your brain is incredibly malleable, even into your 90s, and you get to rewrite your script. This is a chapter in my upcoming book too, about rewriting your operating system. And it's like the iOS, because I'm an Apple guy, but it's like iOS is the individual operating system. And when you're an adult and you have your full cognitive ability and your prefrontal cortex is developed, men maybe in your 30s, but like now is the time that it's like, you know what do I want to be true? What is my worth? Like, what do I actually deserve in my life? What old patterns or stories am I holding on to that don't serve me anymore? I actually want my life to look this way, feel this way. I'm going to now go confirm this bias through affirmation, through meditation, through breath work, through belief. And I'm going to create the reality that I choose for myself, not the one that was given to me. But we don't have enough people that realize this. We just play small, accept what was. This is what it is. I am who I am. And it's like, that's not how the brain actually works. That's just an excuse.
I just had a conversation with neuroplasticity with a client today. I was like, look, you can actually rewire these synapses, and those ones that aren't serving you anymore, you can sever those. You can choose differently. And I think a big part of it is we've been so conditioned to think that we're broken, but actually we're surviving really well. Like these methodologies that we have employed have actually kept us alive and protected. It's just like you said, they don't serve us anymore. To tell, and this is in the book too, you didn't come out of the womb asking politely for breast milk. You came out of the womb screaming and you got it. So
some of you bit.
The first thing that you learned, right? You learned if I just yell and scream, throw a fit, I get what I want. And if you didn't get what you want, well, now you have 1 mark on the ACEs study. If you didn't get breast milk, you can have a check today for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fascinating stuff. So cool. Well, I loved our conversation. I know it's the first of many. We said that last
time. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much for making time to come on and talk about it from your perspective. And, you know, we didn't talk about what our perceptions were of the video. I just sent it to you. You're like, yep,
Yep.
let's get on, let's pod. And I knew we were going to be on the same page about it. So that's awesome.
Yeah, I was honestly a little worried where I was like, I really hope she's not want me to get on here and like support this cop and we have this debate, because I'm like, I'm having a hard time with that. So I'm like, I'm just going to be who I am and hope it works out. So yeah, no, I'm not shocked that we're aligned with it. And yeah, great humans unite. Michaela, it's always a pleasure chatting with you. And again, I really appreciate you sharing your audience. And I cannot wait. Your super creative book launch you're doing. You didn't ask for this, but I'm going to plug the hell out of it. I love what you're doing. So creative. And as always, however I can be a support to you, you have it unconditionally.
Thank you so much. And I'm so excited for your next book, right? Like,
Yeah.
Can I write the testimonial for that one, please?
Hell yeah. Please.
All right. We'll see you soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
The views expressed in this podcast aren't necessarily those of the Sky Talk Doc. They're here to challenge your thinking and inspire growth. Until next time, blue skies and tailwinds.